Real short.
So tomorrow I'll get Campo, so I can swing by then.
Okay, we are gonna go ahead and call the meeting to order. It is Tuesday, August 19th, 2025. We will start with all of our usual things. And the Eastern Commissioner, Jeff Holscher, had set up this meeting, so I will turn it over to you.
All righty, well, I think a month or two ago, we got notification. We are at $200,000 for like the first half of housing prisoners outside of
297,000.
97, so that's almost double, I think, than what we were last year. So I wanted to try to get some conversation started about it to figure out what we need to maybe try to do different, what we can do to either use our resources more efficiently, where we need to pick up the slack. As the prosecutor's office is obviously under the commission, and if we get you more attorneys, is that going to make anything else happen? Is there? And I think there's a lot of moving pieces, but I just want to get a conversation started.
There are. I think that right now, so I've had both my part-timers leave. I know that we transitioned one part-time to a full-time. I think for next year's budget, I'll probably ask to do the same with that second part-time prosecutor position. Other than that, I really think we are okay in that regard. As far as, cases taking any amount of time to get resolved, we do clear cases at a higher rate than the rest of the state does, combined by a pretty substantial margin. We cleared 99.6 for every 100 filed. The rest of the state was at 96 for every 100 filed. With regard to, and I'm sure Sheriff Wheeler would agree with this, at least to some extent as well. So we've got, how many, 20 something on out count right now?
21.
21 on out count. And we do work with the feds and hold their people. And I'm not saying we shouldn't. I'm not saying that's a bad thing that we do. I mean, obviously, we have a pretty good thing going as far as an agreement with the feds to house inmates here. But when you're talking about a certain percentage of the jail population constantly going to that, we're going to always end up, I don't think it matters how quickly we do clear cases, you're always going to end up with more than 150, 160 people who probably need to be in the jail at any given time. And whether that's people coming in for a weekend to sober up because they were driving drunk or running around drunk, whether that's, someone who's charged with a murder or robbery or assault or something like that, whether that's someone who keeps getting let out onto pretrial or just ROR or something, but keeps picking up new charges every time they get out, and eventually it's, hey, you're gonna just sit there until your trial happens. I think for a county of this population, you're always gonna have more than what our jail really has the capacity to hold right now, who's gonna need to be in jail for something. But
No, that's what I'm trying to figure out, because we got so many of them that we have housed somewhere else. We've got, how many, what's our count on pretrial release? Probably it averages about 180. For some reason I thought that we're around 180. And so if you count those, that could be sitting over there as well. I mean, those are nonviolent offenders. We've got a program, and we spend, $250,000 on that program too, so we're spending a lot of money with this. So either people got to quit breaking the law and going to jail, or we got to figure something out. But
nothing we can do about that part, unfortunately. So.
What was it? There was some numbers in the paper not that long ago on how many cases, trials we were doing, and it was like 3,000?
Yeah, that's the
Yeah,
number
and-
of cases we file every year. And most of those are going to be misdemeanors. So typically not someone who's going to be spending any substantial amount of time in the jail.
I think there's been an increase in felonies, though. I mean, I think you
There's
saw.
felonies have gone up, but the majority of cases we will file in any given year are going to be misdemeanor
Well, they were
cases.
comparing us to Cape Girardeau, which county, which with Mac, when we go to Mac, we kind of, we're equal just about in population. We're both first class. And they were 1,300 or something like that.
There's no way Cape Girardeau only filed 1,300 criminal cases.
Well, it was, yeah, but I'm.
Maybe they might have filed 1,300 felonies, but.
I was gonna say, it seems like we have a lot more.
We do not, generally speaking, file, I mean, it's going to vary county to county. You know, you've got 115 different prosecutors in the state, and everyone's going to approach things a little bit differently. But as far as the other first-class counties that we kind of like to use as our metric, I think we're pretty well on par with what those guys are doing. I'm in regular communication with the Cape County prosecutor. I know there's no way they only filed 1,300 cases last year. So,
I guess I'm just trying to, and I'm looking in my own mirror here. I can't control what the state or anybody
No,
else.
I understand.
Public defender. And so trying to figure out, and I know you're not gonna believe this is coming from me, but if we need to spend some money to save some money, then if there's a way we can do that.
recorded, Jeff?
Unfortunately, it is. You're gonna be able to use this when it gets me. But that's why I was kind of asking you to start off with, throw you out
Sure.
there. If there was a way we could,
I
if
mean,
it helps.
it would benefit me to be able to put that final part-time prosecutor as a full-time prosecutor. That would go a long way just to sort of alleviating some of the caseload on some of my other assistant prosecutors, because we do have large caseloads. I mean, I think every prosecutor in the state is always going to tell you they could use a little extra help.
So you still have one part-timer then?
No. So Renee,
Two part-timers and went to.
two part-timers who have both since left. One part-time went to full-time, and it would be great to turn the other part-time into a full-time. And leave that part-time position open to where I could fill it with a part-time victim advocate or part-time investigator to help on some of the, support staff who are also very busy. I think that, there's always all this talk about, the courthouse itself, this and that. And I guess one thing, the issue is not just on the criminal side of things. You have the issue where we've only really got the ability to do one jury trial at a time, and that includes civil as well. And so you've got judges having to juggle both their civil stuff and their criminal stuff. I think most courthouses, you should be able to, depending on what sort of burden it would be on the prosecutor's office, my office could probably handle doing 2 criminal jury trials at a time. Anything more than that would be a significant strain just because of the size of the office. But there shouldn't be any reason one judge shouldn't be able to, or be able to be hearing a civil jury trial while another's hearing a criminal jury trial. That would be, I think, something that would be pretty helpful, at least on their end. Because the way it is right now, everything funnels through that big Division I courtroom as far as jury trials go. And when you have to stack every single judge's criminal and every single judge's civil through that courtroom, it does create a bit of a bottleneck in that regard. Although we're trying one right now, so.
Hindsight's 20/20, but several years ago when we looked at building another courtroom, a big one, and regrettably, we did not do that. So,
Other than that, I mean, obviously we do try to get our cases moving as quickly as possible. There has been a lot of turnover for the public defender's office recently, which is obviously not something anyone can control. And those attorneys have to be able to get up to speed on their cases and everything like that. So certainly not blaming them for any backlog or anything. I mean, being short-staffed is what it is, but it sounds like they should be up to fully staffed here in the near future as well. I was talking to Rebecca the other day about that.
I know we've talked about, well, not a whole lot, but since we're getting another judge, maybe having a courtroom somewhere, or, you know, some of a makeshift one for maybe even temporarily to help.
I think that Judge Green and Judge Stumpy are sort of sharing the big courtroom.
So every judge is using that courtroom for their big criminal law days right now. Every judge. So the 4 circuit judges are all cycling through that courtroom for their law days, which are once a month.
Again, that's where I was fighting it, kicking and screaming, like, we can make it work with what we got, but if we're going into $500,000 housing prisoners somewhere else, but we could do a temporary courtroom somewhere somehow, or I don't know if we can do it at the Supreme Court.
I tried that when we were putting new windows in, and it was, I forget how many $1,000s a day to use one courtroom. And then we also had to pay their officers and things like that. So, I mean, it was so exorbitant that the federal, I thought, well, you know, maybe we could work together. But I ended up talking to a judge in Kansas City, and he's like, no. But, and then Judge Beadham and I had looked at Nick Monaco's office to see if perhaps we could put a courtroom over there. And, well, for one thing, you don't have the bathrooms. They have one little elevator. The security, you would have to have security there besides here. And to adapt it to a courtroom, it would have cost us hundreds of thousands of dollars. But we still would have had, you know, they just had, you know, it just didn't have what it would be required for a court.
One thing that I have also thought of a little bit that might be helpful, and John can probably speak to this as well, but a lot of people end up back in the jail on probation and parole warrants. If it's a parole warrant, there's nothing we can really do about that. But if it's a probation warrant, sometimes the judge kind of does it on their own motion. Sometimes they kind of defer to us on that. But if someone's in custody on a probation violation, we can try and get that set as quickly as possible. And if their probation's going to be revoked, I've talked to the judges about maybe trying to get these set more quickly. And probation's going to be revoked, then they go back to DOC or wherever else and get them out of the jail and get the case moving more quickly. But a good amount of what we do is not just like the criminal cases that we have and file every year. It's also the people who come back on probation violations and things like that.
Is there a way for us to help with that, or anything we can do with it, or is that?
No, not really. It's just a matter of seeing if the judges collectively would like to start setting those for hearing more quickly. I know a lot of judges around the state like to do that because most of the time when you're talking about someone you're looking at revoking on probation, it's because they picked up a new charge. So you can take care of the probation violation and the new case a little more quickly when the probation matter gets taken up first, is my experience. Some judges, on the other hand, prefer to kick the probation can down the road until the new case is resolved. And that's sometimes where you run into an issue of it taking a lot longer. My preference is always take up the probation matter, get that done. Maybe we also get the new case resolved a lot faster too. And at the very least, we've got them out of the jail and either in DOC or wherever.
We've talked about comparing ourselves to Cave County, or maybe there are other peers that we should be comparing to, but what brings us here is the cost of housing prisoners out of county. That's sort of what kicked this off, right? So, do we know stats from our peers with respect to how many prisoner days a like-sized county like us buys or to stay somewhere else? We're concentrating on the dollars, but it really is a result of the days and the price per day that we're to house them somewhere else.
And you're always going to have, at least to some extent, I mean, maybe not, 21 on out count, but there's always going to be some amount on out count, and that could be for a variety of reasons. If we have a trial coming up and we've got one person in the jail who's getting ready to testify against the other one, we might move them to a different facility for safety reasons for a short period of time. I know we've done that before, that kind of thing. But
I don't know, maybe the sheriff could help on this, but the fact that we have, is it 180 beds?
Yes, sir.
You cannot be 100%.
No, never.
Because you never have the right mix.
That's right. I got to be able to classify the prisoners.
Well, first of all, you've got female, you got male. You have certain kinds of males. You have violent males, white collar males. You have your federal, is that a pod that you kind of?
No, we classify them, but we put them in whatever pod, because we have some federal inmates that are white collar that are, not an issue. I could put them in. I think we even have a couple that's in our honor pod. So
Maybe just, I'd love to see more stats on the fact that we feel like we're paying too much to house them out of county. But what is the norm?
well, comparison, since you brought Cape Girardeau up, and I don't know what their total capacity is, but they're doing an expansion. I was just talking to their sheriff. They're doing an expansion right now for 360 beds.
Expansion is 360?
Expansion of 360 because of overcrowding. I think the fix for me, the only fix I can see is to do the build out of our facility, to put in that other 180 beds. That's the only fix I can see, and at least that 500 grand can go towards the payment of the loan or the bonds or whatever. But the only way I see it is to do the build out. Because while we have 21 housed out, and let's just say, I'm at 297,000 as of July 31st. I budgeted 450,000 for the year, but if you annualize it, I'm going to be at 510,000. So if you look at all of those aspects, but then you look at my federal prisoners and say, well, you get 40 federal prisoners. Well, that's bringing in 1.4 million. And while I'm paying 500,000 out, I'm still getting $700,000 towards the revenue side. So I don't know if, because I've had someone ask, well, why don't you just get rid of the federal prisoners? Well, the problem is it's $700,000 that somebody's going to have to come up with of revenue money.
Yeah, I think we kicked that around too.
Yeah.
Trying to weigh how much we get, because we get so much per day for the federal prisoner, and what we're paying to house our prisoners somewhere else, plus transport and everything. So when you just look at the bottom dollar, it seemed like that the federal prisoner thing was worth keeping.
It's absolutely worth keeping.
So what's it cost per day to house a prisoner here with you?
You know what? We just redid those numbers, and I don't know the answer to that right now. We charge $50 a day to surrounding agencies if we charge them. So there's some times when there's an emergency. For instance, Osage County had this a while back. They had an issue with their jail, and we took 4 of their prisoners. We had them for 4 days. We didn't charge them anything. But they house ours sometimes, and they actually pick our prisoners up, we pick theirs up, so it's all big, we work with each other on that.
So what does it cost to house a prisoner, say in Callaway County? What is their cost per day?
I don't know what they're charging right now. I think Montauk, I'm not sure how much Montauk we're getting right now.
I was looking at your inmates too, John. It seemed like most of them that have been here for like years are federal prisoners. So do they have some that sit here that long?
I don't know. I haven't looked at how long we keep those prisoners. I know that there are some that we move off that are,
I thought they maybe just brought them in for a little while until they, got here.
it depends. And when we say we have 40 prisoners, in the month, we may average 45 because we'll get some that will be pass-throughs. They'll bring them to us and say, can you bring them? Because part of our contract is to take them to the courthouse. So they may bring them to us. He may be with us for one day, and then we'll, can't say that. We'll pick them up and take them to the federal courthouse, and then we don't bring them back because they go from there to wherever they're supposed to go from that location. So we could be holding some federal prisoners for less than 24 hours, and then they move them out. So it's just part of the contract on how we utilize them. But
Yeah, sometimes those Fed cases can take a very long time.
yeah,
I thought they were just coming in and going to their
Not always.
hearing and send them back, but
No.
so we're holding them until they get finished with it. So that was
and then we have some others out there that are housed out that I'm not paying for, but I'm responsible for. I have 2 at Department of Mental Health, 1 at Biggs. I thought the one from Biggs was coming back.
No, they're gonna leave her there
That's good.
until trial.
And there's 5 out on furlough, and then 4 out on writs. So even though they're not in my facility, I'm not paying for them, I gotta keep up with them. So we're required to know where they're at and all that kind of stuff, so.
I think bottom line on that though is the federal prisoners, we could eliminate what it's costing us to house them.
Yeah, but then we'd also.
County, but at the cost of the revenue from the federal prisoners,
Right.
so.
Sheriff, I know the transportation costs get higher, but are you required or restricted to only house out in other prisons in Missouri?
Yes, it has to be, anywhere we house, it's gotta be pretty close. Unfortunately, we were looking at, I can't remember, I think this was 2 or 3 months ago, we were actually looking at housing out in Greene County because there was no beds around here. Montauk I think they already had 30 of our people, and then we ended up, we were looking at the Greene County, which is, a 2.5 hour drive. But the problem is we have to, whenever they're in a different location, we got to track their court dates, and we got to make sure they're back in our location for their court date. So 2.5 hours away is a problem.
And that takes 2 of your employees to take that trip.
That's correct. That is correct. So we try to get people local around here. Montauk has been very accommodating to us. I mean, they're charging us, but I mean, they're very accommodating to us. But we've had them in Pettis County, we've had them in Callaway, we've had them in Osage.
Didn't Osage just close their jail?
They're back open again.
Okay.
I can't remember, we housed them.
Phelps, I think.
Phelps County, we've had a couple, so. They're
Is
all,
there a standard rate, or are they all just a little bit different in their daily rates?
they're all a little bit different depending on where you go. I think Rolla was charging us 61. To other places, I think it was 50, isn't it? 50 for Montauk? Yeah. So,
When you say to the feds you will house their prisoners, does that mean they have to stay here? Can you ever sub them out to another place?
no, they have to stay on premises. And nobody else wants them. And the reason being is because you gotta have, whenever, there's some stipulations with a federal prisoner. One is you gotta have gun toters anytime you move them around, so they gotta be a deputy. You can't, like right now, if I'm sending a couple of inmates to Montauk County, it could be 2 jailers. But when you have a federal prisoner, it's gotta be 2 deputies. So it's a little more, and there's some more stuff that you have to comply with. The building has to be built in such a way that allows for so much space for outdoor rec and lighting and all this other stuff.
When Cole County receives a payment from Missouri Department of Corrections, because that person was convicted, had already served time here, we get paid, Cole County gets paid by corrections for that, if that time is counting against their sentence, kind of thing. Is that how it works? And is the state doing a better job of getting that money to us now?
They're doing a better job getting the money to us. The problem is the money's not that much. I mean, it came out in a hearing,
$23 a day?
$22.50. It came out in a hearing this year, actually. One of the senators asked Conservation Corrections how much it cost them to house one person out, and it was $103 a day. So for them to house somebody, it was $103 a day, and we're only getting paid from Department of Corrections $22.50. So there is a push this year of trying to get, we're working with MAC, trying to get that increase to, I think it was $33. So, but everyone's budget is problematic, so I don't know if that's gonna happen or not. But yeah, $22.50, and that's only, and if they get found guilty and they get time served, or if they get probation, then we get zero. Citizens of Cole County paid for that.
Do you remember how many we were housing before we built the new jail outside of Cole County or total?
Well, right before we did, it was, I want to say it was like 40. It was like 40 people, I think. But the old jail, how much it's supposed to hold, I think the actual beds for that was like 46, wasn't it?
36.
And how many did we house in there sometimes?
Well, when I worked down there, which was back in 98,
You
99.
don't want to say it's been recorded.
Yeah, well,
Statute of limitations.
It was over 100. So, and the difference is, in the old facility, there were 10-person tanks, and it was over 100, right?
it was around, from what I recall, about 75-ish.
Oh, okay, well.
So,
But either way it goes, the way the tanks are, if a kid got caught DWI or minor possession and he couldn't post bond, he could very well end up in a tank up there with a rapist or a murderer or whatever. And what you're doing then is you're making more victims. So with the new facility, when we built it with the 8 pods, we're able to put, we're able to separate those, so the ones that cause a lot of problem, that have injured people, assaulted people, we try to put them in a pod by themselves, and it goes right down the line. If we have a 24-bed female tank. Out of those 24 beds, if we get 25 and we can't find a place for that one female, then we either have to bring them up front, which is very problematic for that individual, or we have to close down a male pod, and do something with the 24 beds in there and make another female pod. We've had to do that a couple times, where we've had to shut down 2 pods just for females.
and rarely would we ever be able to use actually the 24 beds
Right.
because people don't get along. So there'd be one person cells many times, you know.
When we built that, it sounded like there was gonna be plenty of people, and that's all we didn't do the interstitial area. And it still sounds like it should be enough, but it's like, build it and they will come. So how many more beds was the interstitial? 80?
180.
It's another 180.
We
But
can drop another 180 beds in there.
even with having that other build out that we put in there?
Yep.
Okay, I thought that.
No, so if you remember, if you think about our pod, the way it's set up right now with the satellite, they would do the same thing right below it. Just drop it straight in, and there still leaves room for our, because we'd have to, with that many increase, you'd have to increase your medical, so we'd have to have a bigger medical area. And, you know, you'd have to have a bigger area for inmate property. There's several things that would have to be included whenever you do that. When you do the build out, it's not just the cells.
And we have to have more jailers.
Secondary, yeah, the secondary elevator. And the jailers, we're 4 right now, full-time, 2 part-time, so we're 6 short right now out of 55 jailers, which is a lot better than it's been for a long time, and I just jinxed us big time. I think Zimmer doing the social media has really helped us quite a bit. I think it's getting the message out there, it's getting our branding out there quite a bit, and we're getting a lot more people to apply for those positions. this time of year, when college starts back up, some of these 18-year-olds that really didn't want to go to college, talked to one yesterday and told him he needed to come talk to us. 18 years old, come to work for me for $50,000 a year, full benefits, 2 retirements. It's pretty good. So, you want me to say that again, or you got that? Okay. But it's a pretty good deal, and we're hoping to be able to get some of those individuals.
Well, to double the jail size,
Well,
it would, I mean, is it all, we either double it or?
Well, I just talked to the architects, and they're actually putting a number together where if we could do like 4 pods. The problem is, it'll be a cheaper amount of money to do the 4 pods, but it's the same amount of people to run it. If there's 1 pod down there, or if there's 8 pods down there, which is typical what a full pod is, or a full build out. It's going to take the same amount of people to watch them. So they're getting the numbers for me now, though, to see if that's going to be possible. Because you got to think about security. There's going to be some extra security stuff in place to make sure that.
When the bonds were retired from the original bill out over there, the 1/8 of a sales, 1/8 cent sales tax went away. It was a half, it went to 3/8.
Yes, sir.
Because 1/8 was there to retire the debt issued to build the place. To bring the 1/8 back would take a vote of the people.
That is correct.
And as you and I have talked about it, the 3/8 isn't really cutting it anymore on the operation side.
No, sir.
So just asking the people of the citizens of Cole to increase 1/8 to build is not good enough. It's going to take 1/8 plus some kind of operation number.
That's correct. We got to be at half cent for our operational funds to be good. Right now, we're using our reserves right now, and it's only 200,000 or 300,000. I say only, but it's 200,000 or 300,000, and we have some built up in there. But you only can go to that so often before it starts to dwindle away. So I would absolutely think that the first thing we need to do is to get our operational funds to half cent, and then the second thing is figure out how we can build out that facility. I think Debbie, I was talking to Debbie, I think you said we could bring in a consultant and some, I don't know who, but someone smarter than me, and to take a look at everything that we're needing to find out what in fact we need to do to not only build out that facility, but also to make sure that our operational funds are good.
It's kind of what the commission did when we built the jail to begin with.
Yep.
A financial consultant with a
Was it
group of individuals.
I think it was Central Bank that actually came in and talked, right? Wasn't it?
It was Joy Howard who actually, she was out of St. Louis.
We just want your $2.5 million HVACs on your roof. We can make do with those for another 10 years.
Now, if Greg was here
Give
right
us
now,
2.5.
he would be throwing stuff at you, but I can't afford it.
I know, I mean, we've got so many things that are nearing their end of life at the courthouse. And so it's kind of like, or at the jail, courthouse, that we've got some things we need to do over there, you know, that the HVAC stopped working Sunday, and it's, I don't know. Let's all go out and buy lottery tickets, and it's up to what, 500 some million. Maybe one of us will be lucky. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is.
I was trying to find something cheaper than that. Like I said, I was trying to figure out if there was a way we do, maybe we have some resources or maybe there's ways that we could do things more efficiently, or, you know, spend some money to save some money or something. And that's just kind of where I was at today, trying to figure out what.
Well, I would think that, you know, if we did increase the size, that may increase the number of Fed holds we take, right?
Yeah, it would.
That would
help also.
help too. Yeah.
But I know that we like at these conferences we go to, we talk to each other about the efficiency of our organizations and how we can do things a little bit better. I just found out about a 24/7 language line that I had no idea existed. So if you bring someone in that talks a foreign language, this company that you can go to has people that can interpret up to 300 different languages, real time. So that's very beneficial whenever you're trying to book somebody to be able to get the accurate information. So we constantly, I know that us sheriffs, we constantly talk to each other about the efficiency of organizations and how we can do better.
We just implemented that language line in my office. I think it's
Is that all right? Works pretty good?
helpful, yeah.
Yeah.
Had the feds ever come to you saying, we sure wish you had a bigger jail?
It was about 6 or 8 months ago, I was talking to one of the feds, he was on a visit, and I said, we were down to 36 inmates. And I said, or maybe it was 32. It was 32 inmates. And I said, you gotta get us back up to 40. And he said, well, hell, if you want 60, I can get you 60. And I went, no. I can't do 60, but I'll take the 40. So I think because of the location that we are from the federal courthouse, I think absolutely that if we was to build something that we would get more federal prisoners. I have no doubt. I mean, they won't sign anything telling you that, but that's pretty much what they said, so. I've asked the feds to pay for the jail and they said no.
I was gonna say, did you ask them for a donation?
Pretty quick.
Yeah.
Pretty quick, they said no.
Jeff, money will solve it all.
Winning the lottery at this point wouldn't cover it. So,
Bet the Powerball.
Oh, yeah.
Of course.
I don't buy, I'm not lucky, but you know, when it gets up that high, then I'll stop and buy.
We all say that the Powerball is gonna fix everything, but we all know here, if one of us wins the Powerball, we ain't coming back. I'd be like, I wonder how those guys are doing.
I don't know what the answer is.
all right, well,
And I think on my end, I can do more to push the probation stuff to try and get those holds moving through more quickly. The issue becomes kind of, as I think John and I have been saying, like those spaces are gonna fill right back up pretty quickly.
Well,
And
and not only that, but I mean, you've got a schedule on your cases that you have, and whenever you try to bump a probation violation up there, it takes away from what you're trying to do. And maybe that extra person, or extra 5 people, would help be beneficial to you.
I ran into Richard Lee.
I
at,
don't have room for them.
At that event they had for Mark Schreiber, Richard Lee. I've got some ideas for pretrial release where we could release more, and I don't know.
I'm gonna tell you, the majority of the people that I have in custody right now, there's some bad people in there. I mean, the judges do pretty good about nonviolent offenders, and we don't keep DWI first anymore. I mean, even parole violations, the parole is doing pretty good about coming and picking people up and taking them out. But it's.
But I don't want bad guys out in the street.
Yeah,
We don't.
well, I think pretrial's going through them and getting the nonviolent offenders that aren't gonna, really jeopardize the safety of our community.
They do a really good job with that, with sort of earmarking, this person's clearly got some violent tendencies. This person is, 90-something% likely to reappear for their court dates, that sort of thing. They give the judges a lot of great information to go on.
It's not a nexus. They have a little deal they go by that actually tells them if the person's going to be will succeed on going out versus if he has to stay in.
There's an extra website, you're gonna see that most, everybody in there is some kind of a violent offender. It's
like I said,
not there for writing bad checks.
I got bad people in my jail, and I don't know if pretrial, I think they try to get people out as much as they can.
Well, they don't want to be set up for failure either by having to supervise people who are highly violent.
Well, and there's a few, and I say a few, like 10 or 15 that they've actually gotten out at one time, and then they failed, and now they're not gonna let them back out because of their past history. So, I mean, I think they do a pretty good job for what they're doing.
I don't remember if they said they were gonna be here today or not.
Why not?
I forget what they said in the email, so. I don't know if there's anything else. I mean, we can sit here and kick some stuff around. I just kind of want to get the conversation started. I think there's some other conversations that we may try to have, even, you know, private conversations, one at a time with somebody else.
I don't know, I know the judges aren't here, but I do believe that they look at your roster and see who can be safely released.
So, yeah, so we have the jail roster that we put out to the judges and to staff, and then on our website, we have inmate lookup where anybody can get on there and look and see an individual, what they're charged with, and how long they've been in my custody. So, and I think that they look at that on a regular basis, trying to move those cases forward.
Did you say someone is looking, crunching numbers for the build out?
Yes, sir. I asked him to this weekend to if we were gonna do half, how much it would be to do half. He's working on that right now.
Because they did a full, how many years ago?
What's that?
Didn't they do a full study, how many years ago?
Just 2 years ago, they did a full study, it was 30 million. But since then, we've had that was including the data room, and the data room's already installed, so I think they were saying that was gonna reduce it down to 26 million. The problem is, when you do half, is that means you still gotta build out the floor. You gotta pour the concrete for all the floor, so.
You gotta take the south wall out too, don't you,
Yeah.
to get the cells in?
Yeah. So it's gonna be tricky to do that, without a doubt. But architects are pretty smart.
Well, I really don't, I'm not gonna hold everybody else up. I think we gotta keep our wheels spinning and keep thinking about it. We ran out of room, you know, at this price tag, we're gonna run out of money at some point at $500,000 a year. So we gotta figure something out. I have no clue what that is. I think, you know, looking into finishing that other part of the jail out. That's gonna be a tough pill to swallow, you know. Hold our nose and take a big drink, I guess.
Well, we all knew it was gonna happen. I mean, that's why we put it there. I was just hoping that it would be, you know, the next sheriff's problem, not mine, but.
Well, if we don't start looking at it now, then we keep kicking it down the road, and then it will be a problem, a bigger problem, so. All right, well, thank you all. I was just trying to get people smarter than me in the room, and we can kick this around. We just need to maybe see what they say about the build out, John, and if we need to get, is Joy still doing
Probably not gonna talk
I
to
think
that? Would she
so.
come back?
That was 13, 14 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
First,
I think she is.
not sure.
Well, we gotta have the money to pay the bonds back.
That's where she comes from.
Yeah, I think she's the one kind of drew the plan up.
Yeah,
and
she
said,
did.
This is what you need, and this is how you get there. And so I think finding what we need and then having her find the way to get there would be kind of the next thing. Unless somebody else has some ideas, and I know the judges aren't here, if you get anything from them, if there's something that, you know, we can do to help, as much as I hate to say it, you know. Sometimes you do have to throw money at this stuff. So. Anything else? I'll make a motion to stand in recess until 4:30.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks for coming.